I'd have to say what I really enjoy about Happy State Bank is the morale that we have. Part of that goes back to the ownership that we talked about. Everybody understands as an owner, we're going to think like owners, not like managers, and we truly have each other's back each and every day. So that just the teamwork, everyone works so hard for each other, knowing that the ultimate goal is that each one of our customers is going to leave this bank knowing that we have given them everything we have as bankers to exceed any expectations they had out of our bank.
Let's call the meeting to order, and we'll turn it over to City Manager to go through the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Tell you what, today we have two more of your component unit budgets coming forward for review. We have your Amarillo Potter Events Venue District and your Center City Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 1. Chairman Brown from the Tiers is here, and if I could get he and Michelle to come up. We'll start, take a quick run through that, and the time is right. Maybe Mr. Reeves will be here or close by the time we move on. So, which of you wants to lead off? Or somebody jump right into it.
You jump right in. I'll talk to 8 members and we get lost.
She can straighten you out if you're vague.
She will straighten you out.
Good to see you, Richard.
How are you guys?
Good, Richard. How are you?
So
which one of your mini hats you're wearing? A Tiers hat?
I'm wearing the Tiers hat today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Unless you want me to wear another one.
Nope.
We're here about our budget today, and I think, as you know, we've had a pretty successful year, and we're looking forward to another good year. As to our budget, I would say to you there are only a few changes that I can highlight for you so you know, I guess, where we're departing from where we've been in the past. But the basic way our organization functions is we have very low overhead, and basically everything we spend ends up going into project services, which really means the projects we're working on. And so the driving dynamic for us is almost always what projects are we able to pull together during the course of the year. So our budget looks a lot like last year, except as to projects which have come or gone or are coming. And where we are at the moment is we have a few projects that are sort of left over in that the final payments have gone out on those, and then we have a few new ones hanging. And the big ones there would be for the TechStop program, which is euphemistically called a grant program. Tiers put up the $400,000 match for that, and lo and behold, we won the grant. So it looks like we're actually going to be lucky enough to spend that money at some point. We've been carrying that $400,000 as an obligation, and are continuing to do so, and that's in the budget for this year, although we're speculating that we won't actually spend it this year because TechStop will be able to get their stuff in one sack in time to do that. So that obligation will continue to appear. And then we have also committed $2.7 million towards the hotel, convention center, and baseball park. And so that's contingent on here as a contingent obligation of Tiers. Those are not really changes. Those are just the two big things that are sort of hanging out there. I mean, it's a change that maybe we're actually going to do the 400. And then the one sort of material change I would point to on our budget is that we've formed I guess you would say, a partnership with Center City of Amarillo to link up with their existing facade grant program, which they have run for you for about the last 20 years or so, where they coordinate with some of the smaller property owners downtown and encourage them to do things to improve the facade of their buildings. And if the owners do that, then they have a matching program where the owner's putting up more money than what the city is providing through Center City. In order to make that program more attractive to the smaller owners downtown, what we propose for this year is to link to the facade grant program commitment from Tiers to provide some of the funds for the lights and landscape and things out there on the street. So it's obviously linked to the facade grant in that it's just the part out front. And then because we've had some coordination issues and sort of double dipping issues with the two organizations, we thought it was also better to tie these two together and make it simpler for the applicant to just have one group to talk to. So the way that's all been done through the staff suggestion was to kind of roll that into the Center City contract. And when you approve the Center City contract, you're also kind of circling back around and approving our participation in that. So what we have done is we have committed up to $150,000 for separate projects up to $50,000 apiece. So the Center City can then go out and sort of market the program in conjunction with the facade grant program. And you can say to the individual owner, you want to do the facade grant, here's the deal. If you want to put in lights and benches, and we've already got Tiers lined up to help on that. There is a match on the facade grant, and then there is a sort of implicit match on what the Tiers is doing, because our part is limited to the stuff, the lights and the benches, and they've got to deal with installation and
Sidewalks or anything else.
And so, Richard, if I'm an applicant, I go through Center City for all this?
You go through Center City. Center City's going to front the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they get to the point where Center City is saying, let's do this, then Center City comes back to our board and says, hey, we're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It will probably be virtually a rubber stamp, because they have to be doing a streetscape which conforms with the ordinance that's already in place. And the staff have already vetted that, so it's almost perfunctory that they're coming back to us at that point.
But you think that match will be pretty equal, their part that they have to participate in for the non-facade grant? That would be pretty close. So if you went up to 50, you think they'll be doing 50 in most cases?
I think there's no way to know, because everybody's sidewalk is different, as you know, from sidewalks that fall into basements. So it's really just to put the opportunity out there, and in particular to, I guess, to in effect earmark some funds for the smaller owners and make it easier for them to go through the process and get there. That's where they want to go. But neither of these programs is free, so you know you got to want to do it.
But maybe this would better be asked of Kelly. Kelly, if they said, I want $50,000 for my lights, my benches, my trees, does that trigger that they have to be sure the sidewalks have been adequately updated to fit all that, so they don't try and retrofit it into old sidewalks that are not adequate?
If they make any changes to any of the streetscape elements, anything they do has to be in conformance with the downtown urban design district standards. So if they made any changes to the sidewalks, like putting trees or lights in it, those sidewalks would then
It would trigger the whole. Okay, good. That's what's my question. That's fine.
you have to.
Couldn't be a piecemeal deal.
But it would be on a case-by-case basis,
Sure,
because some of those sidewalks are
Can't do much with them.
they're different in different places, and if you made one space look like a certain way than the other.
Yeah. But did it get reviewed and you get processed towards trying to make it uniform?
Mm-hmm.
The exceptions would be made when there's a basement underneath and you have 3-tier sidewalks because of that.
Yeah, that would
Okay.
definitely be the intent, was to try to get everything.
Okay, good.
So that's the principal new thing in our budget. And
Liking that.
the rest of it is we're kind of parked with these big projects hanging. We're sort of tapped out of funds, except for somewhere on the order of about $1 million still in the pot for small projects that come up. But until the big project gets done, we're sort of tied in to where we are.
Good.
With that, when you said 2.7, did you say hotel parking garage and impact? Is that what you said? 2.7. Okay. I just want to make sure I heard you right. I've got a math question. I was looking at the total revenue, and I was just curious, because it makes for good talk, how much the total revenues have gone percentage-wise since the beginning and since last year. And you don't have to answer that right now, because I couldn't, but that'd be interesting to know.
You have to subtract the debt issuances to get back to your true revenue.
Okay.
We do have a tier subtotal, which is 608, 655, and that's up from 5 to 94,975.
So that's the net increase in a year.
The first full year was only 317,000.
So it's nearly double.
The valuations have gone up.
And remember, there's a lag on the new property.
Sure.
It doesn't roll in until the next year.
Oh,
The new property had it.
Incremental
But you see
on that.
incremental increases in the taxable values every year.
Tax base is up $450,000 last year to this year. And based on my anecdotal evidence of lease rates, it's going to go up some.
So you're saying this is working? Is that what you're saying?
Something's working.
Something's working.
We'll be happy
We
to
still have money.
join with others in saying we're making something happen. I think it's
What's the count on light poles now?
Kelly, can you remember off the top of the head? We've gone through our entire first order.
That was 200. So.
And we've just made another order of another 100 lights.
I think we're on the third order.
We actually did 2 orders.
That'd be the best way to remember, because the total order we've already gone through.
Twice.
Yeah, I think so twice now.
That's incredible. I mean, it's so much higher.
Of course, now we've reserved some of the lights that we had in anticipation of the streetscape, which we got.
It's all good.
So.
That's great.
Good.
But if you're down here in the late evening, when those are really starting to come on, in some areas are starting to be enough density, you can really get the effect. You can see what the goal of that was, and it gets impressive.
That's good.
Thanks for your work, Richard. Glad you're not billing us.
You bet.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford it.
It's been there a long time.
Been there since the beginning.
We appreciate your support. Things are happening because you guys are making it happen.
It's happening because a lot of people are making it happen. I really take issue with that. Without everybody working together, it never would happen. The whole city's pulling for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll move then to the second budget for today. That being the Amarillo Potter Events Venue District. Mr. Bud McMenemy was unable to be with us today, so Michelle is going to carry the ball for us. You each have that in front of you.
The venue district anticipates starting the year with just over $2 million, and they have made a policy that they're going to keep $500,000 in reserve, and then the rest of the funds are split 60-40. The balance for the A&C piece is $517,000, and for the city's piece is $996,000. They have 2 revenue streams: the 5% vehicle rental tax, and they're estimating that number at $873,000, and then the 2% hotel occupancy tax, and that number, just like the city's, is up at $1.6 million for total revenue of $2,495,000. And again, the bulk of their projects are split between either A&C and the city. And normally what they do is they'll have a management contract for each one that covers operating costs, and then they'll have projects that they do. So account 63705 is the Amarillo Tri-State participation, and that's where they're running their capital improvements in. It's budgeted at $400,000. The management contract is at $328,000, and the Civic Center management contract is at $398,000. Again, to cover operating costs. The event development account 63900 is $175,000. That's for event development at the A&C Center. And then this year, the Civic Center has asked for some capital funding. They've got 3 projects for a total of $350,000. Carpet replacement, a keyless entry system, and digital signage. And again, all these items are in the footprint of the original setup of the venue district.
Those three were in your city capital budget, but they were shown as funded by others. So here is your other. This is the other.
And the venue district has 2 bond issues for total debt service of just over $1 million for the year. Your total expenditures are $2,696,437, leaving available funds of $1.8 million.
They're doing a good job.
They are, and they just work so well as far as balancing the needs out of fairgrounds, Amarillo National Center, and those related parks, and what they do over at the Civic Center in their portion of the footprint. Just generally speaking, the north half of the Civic Center when you're talking about the footprint.
Is this, in this account somewhere, does it show where we get that rebate from the state?
Yes, it actually, I have it in the details. If you'll look at third to the last page, it's account 63900. We're running it through event development, and we just show it as the in and out because that money is part of the agreement with the quarter horse, where we actually remit those dollars. It's $85,000.
That was up on the front too, I think.
The total was.
Yeah.
But on that third from the last page, I have the details that makes up the event development count of $175,000. Those are all the different programs that they're going to help on.
The table.
So that, each of those have their own increment they get back from the state?
No, just the Adequan show
Just
is the
Adequan,
one.
okay.
Right.
Yeah, because we have to.
And then we
There's only
also
one.
do WRCA for the city.
WRCA, but I don't see
That's
it.
the city. That
Okay, that's on the
event's
city.
a city event. So Sherman works with the,
It's on our, okay.
yeah,
That's on our budget, not here.
right.
Pretty good. We're 85,000 back.
Very good.
Full of them correct, just like this one would.
We look at those next week?
Those what?
We look at these next week?
You start approving them next week, isn't it?
That's what I meant. But I
Work,
don't want to
Charlie?
say approved because we have like.
Good work.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, that was easy. We'll get ready now, go into the agenda.
Sounds good. Pretty good.
So if we have to get the vote. Y'all thought you were through with the big flat budget books, so we do have them here for the money. Feels like they missed something, they want to look at it again. Item number 1, approval of the minutes for last week's meeting. Item number 2, public hearing on the tax increase. This is not an action item. This is, you have proposed a maximum tax rate of 34.009 cents. Of course, that is greater than your current rate. Your current rate is 32, and your effective rate is about 31.57. The text you have on your agenda sheet today, that's the required text. It does go through, and I pointed out, I think, in your memo that the functional numbers here are the tax on the average home in Amarillo last year, $363.45. Tax on an average home at the 34-cent tax rate would be $385, or just less than a $23 increase therein. We do have available, if you would like them or if you ultimately need them during this process, we have that entire series of charts on the rates and how you compare and what your proposed changes do is in terms of moving them back and forth on those. But we have those. We can display them here if you'd like to preview them. We have them outside as well if you want them during the regular meeting.
I'm sure it's in here, but what's the average home value?
113 and change.
113 this time?
113,356.
And that went up from last year.
It's down slightly, but remember they changed the calculation.
It's down a couple $100.
Yeah.
The preliminary numbers had us down as far as 111, but that went back to where it needed to go.
It's actually $22.06 higher. It's not 23, is it?
I have, as far as.
It's not very much. Is what
No,
I'm
it's,
getting
it's, yeah, it's just over
$22.06 higher.
Teach me to do numbers in my head.
Three Big Macs, lunches.
$385 versus $363. The taxes on the average home, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
$22.06, you're correct, Mayor.
So it's $22.
It's 6 cents.
6 cents.
difference.
Higher.
If you do, if we vote to go to 2 cents.
Yeah.
If you do. And your hearing is on the 34th. You have another hearing on the 34th. You then begin the process of actually voting. When you begin to vote on your budget and the resulting tax rate, that's when, if you're going to change from that you reduce it.
Right.
You hold the hearing based on the maximum that you propose. And I feel like we probably have enough stuff to try to answer almost anything that might come up relatively quickly today.
So the things that I'm interested in, from just not from what you do with it, but from how I justify it in my mind, and what I'm trying to justify is first of all, the police. We're pretty clear on that.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the salaries that are deficient or lower than some other areas as we compare those, really for you to do, but for us to have an indication of why it's necessary. The third one is the IT, and I've got that in one of my charts, but it shows predicted future expenditures on IT. My view is that whatever you may not use in that second penny, first penny we've sort of said that's for police.
Mm-hmm.
Second penny is loosely defined as helping with salaries. But I still believe that's up to you, your discretion to deal with. If there's anything left, certainly it's not going to touch what's needed in IT in the next few years. That IT number over the next 5 years concerns me. It is a large number we don't have any ability to deal with unless there's a huge increase in sales tax or some other revenue. And it's going to hit us. There's no question about it.
It's the next thing that we have to address. We spent the last 2 budgets really trying to get control of and get back ahead of the police, where we had, pulled that back for several years running, and now we're paying the piper.
Sure.
And we're moving forward on that. IT certainly it's a significant number. It's much smaller than the fleet number, but they'll get extensive focus as we
But
move
didn't the chart show over 5 years, the graph, or the chart we saw shows about $1.6 million every year expended?
But it's 1.6, not 1.6 plus 1.6.
No, but it's 1.6 a year that we don't have in the current budget.
Right.
So
For IT.
And it'll get higher.
for IT. So my
Well, we
point
have
is
six,
that's
about
there's 600 in the budget,
Okay,
so
but
the net's about 1.
1 million. So if we take that 1 million, it's a little over $0.0125. And the point is, it's like the police salaries. We got to keep paying that. This is something we know is going to get, or we are going to have a substandard computer system if it had failure. We can't afford to have failure with our computer system.
Agreed.
I experienced that in business early days when we weren't so concerned about updating computers. We didn't know how 36 computers cost us all kinds of money to fix because they failed. And there was an interrelationship in that failure. I don't know the technical terms, but one failure caused another one, and pretty soon we had them all screwed up. So the point is, I don't want to risk that with, after what we experienced in our business, I don't want to risk that with over 3,000 computers in the city. So it is important to me that we discuss how that is going to be dealt with in the future. And anything we do to supplant this budget now really helps with that. That's my view. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
I think you're correct, Mayor. And the incremental growth that you have in future years from that will also help us as we start working towards that number. And very much appreciate you having the discussion, because when you put this revenue on the ad valorem taxes, that's something that stays, grows. That allows you to start building up, allows us to start building up to meet those needs when we can't, if truly the only variable income we have is how good or less than good sales tax is in a particular year.
Well, and the fact is that the technology changes so rapidly that as soon as we buy one system or do something along those lines, it's going to change in 6 months, and we always have to be ready to move to the next thing, and we can't do without it. I know I hear people more like my generation who, think we ought to just get rid of everything. Well, it's impossible. We're in in this world of computers and wireless and all that, and we just have to stay up with the times. That's all there is to it, because we're a customer-oriented business, and we have systems that have to be upheld. Otherwise, we can't function. So it's not a question of doing it or not doing it. We have to do it. We just have to find a way to pay for it.
But there's a problem with that. When I asked James Brown how they were going to deal with monitoring those computers, what our failure was is we didn't monitor them to prevent a failure, and we went tenfold on what it would have taken to maintain those versus how to rebuild them. We spent an incredible amount of money rebuilding 36 computers, and we couldn't just abandon them. We had to have the data that was in there, so we had to rebuild them. My point is, with 3600, he said we don't have the funds to do that monitoring from one location. We actually had a company that monitored all our computers remotely, 36, and could call and say, hey, you got a failure coming here. We don't even, when we say we're trying to keep up, we're still, with that expenditure, that isn't being calculated in. We're still far behind what other industry does. So we don't have a Cadillac system with our computers. We've got a very basic system that is not up to date with what other competitors have.
And you have, in a more traditional business, since your computers are focused on a single line of work, and your software and everything is specialized towards that, we don't have that ability here. Nearly 200 pieces of that equipment, mobile equipment that's in the police, fire, public works environment, entirely separate and different than what's happening in here or in utility billing. We have, and I'm going to say the wrong number, but I want to say 6 completely distinct, different pieces of enterprise software to try to run the specialized businesses, sub-businesses that we have in the city. They have an automated monitoring system. It's not a live system. I think that's exactly your discussion with James, and that service is just not available to us. We've got to build the capacity to do that stuff in-house because of the divergence.
Right. We've got a lot of sensitive information, I'm sure, through billing and whatever, and people's benefits and on. And so I think security is an important part of what James's job is too.
He has made tremendous strides in the security realm. We actually pay third parties every year to come in and attack the various different systems that we have. You use that to see if you have a vulnerability. If you have one, what is it? And not every piece of enterprise equipment gets hit every year, but it's on a rotating deal. And it's actually called out in your budget when we do that.
And then the other side of the coin that I'd just like to bring up is that we have had a great sales tax year and last year too. And so how has that helped us, and yet we still need an extra thing?
We would have been asking for far beyond the rollback rate, had we not. Or we'd have lost some services.
And I'm just saying, discuss, because people will say that.
Certainly. You see that in several different ways. The net increase that we carried over in sales tax was a little over 2.1. A little over 2.1. Yeah, coming forward. That helps you with your capital. Remember, you've grown your general fund capital for the second consecutive year. I think we're still a little low, but we're making tremendous progress towards catching up on that. When you look at just a basic compensation for your employees, a single percentage point is nearly $1 million. It doesn't take long to start moving that. We had a hit, it's a catch-up hit in the general fund with how we escalated the garage rates. Remember, that was a minimum 7% increase for the garage rates. That's where the money to pay that comes from. We're increasing the charges to IT to start building up those numbers. That comes out of that. Well, anything that you saw that was above what you had the year before is pretty much coming out of your sales tax increases.
And the number I saw that was impressive to me is we've added in 3 years 115 miles of paved streets in the city. Almost the total number we had in 1950. In 3 years we've added, so we now have to maintain those. We accept them. Obviously some people help us pay for them, developers did. We pay for part of that.
No, true.
We pay for the other, yes. And now we have to maintain those, and we can't do it on the same time we did it before we had 115 miles of street.
This commission was very good 2 years ago to dedicate specific extra revenue. That's helped us start to catch up. I think we discussed during your budget reviews that catch-up is great, but as you add those 100-plus miles over the course of 1, 3, 5 years, you've got to keep moving upwards with that dedicated revenue, or you start going back again.
So how many vehicles does it take to do 115-mile streets? How many people? How much time? How much materials? It's all adding up.
Excellent point. And you're adding a new repair crew for your streets this year.
And the other one I thought was significant that's a little talked about, but the water department, we've increased, I think you told me something like 40,000 people without increasing staff. In the city population. Yeah.
In staff in the water.
So now we're doing that. But those kinds of things have to be sustained. That to me is not just, the sales tax helps us stay off the backs of homeowners, but it doesn't.
And we've got dedicated funds for drainage, so it's just check, 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 things that were infrastructure that was on there.
Isn't it a good thing that we do?
And Jared, just a reminder, your public safety positions you were able to add in the proposed budget, firefighters.
Three police and 8 firefighters.
And animal control officers.
So that's all part of it.
There was
That was in the original
Net
budget.
increase in revenue.
Well, 14 of your 16 general fund new positions before the 10 officers. But 14 of those 16 net gain, that was all accommodated within your existing 32 cents and the increase in the sales tax.
I can't find a place in the budget to carve out a savings that would augment this change. I can't do it. And then to think it has to be sustained over a number of years, or is it just a Band-Aid for a year?
I think this commission has considered all aspects of the challenges facing us, and I think we've been very deliberate in considering how to do it, when to do it, and the reasons for doing it. And I think we just need to be really educational to the public and let them know why we're doing these things, which are public information. We're not doing this willy-nilly just because we think it's time to make a change.
Do we have, we'll have comparison graphs to other cities and our sisters?
We do. In fact, Vicki, if you flip the TV on for me, please.
Yeah, we're still.
You've made tremendous progress in first finding and then second addressing your future liabilities. That's not fun. That's not a new police officer to come to your call or a new fire truck. But those are very, very real future issues that a city can get into. We're so far ahead of many, in moving that way. 16 additional personnel were added into the general fund in the base budget. Again, 14 of those were public safety. We added 1 person to deal with the electronic controls that run our buildings. You added 2 positions in transit. You added an engineering project inspector, which is above and beyond the one I added mid-year, and that's to be sure that we're doing the best that we can do to get our money's worth as we do these projects to try to fix the streets and fix the drainage. Move that forward. And I have all of these notes. You're adding 1 additional crew in your drainage utility. That's part of that original business plan. We're just building into it as that takes off. You had 5 new in information technology that really reflects taking your communications people and putting them into IT, because whether we like it, accept it or not, our telephones, our computers, our radios are headed that way. Whole lot of that. So the thing that I guess I'm really proud of is that the budget is not singularly focused on one particular thing. You're moving the ball forward across a wide variety. You're dealing with existing infrastructure. You're helping us catch up on things that we got off into the ditch back when the sales tax and everything was going down in 09 and 10. You're increasing public safety. You're doing quality of life. You're doing services. These continued expansions in the Spectran system. We've done that 3 years in a row, every year since I've been in this seat. You've continued to grow that. We catch the demand the first of the year, and by the end of the year, we're behind and we need to do it again. And that's going to keep up. Your 8 additional firefighters finishes out all the work that you were able to accomplish with that 2007 certificate of obligation. You've got about the highest rated fire service that you can get, and that's not just in Texas, it's the entire Southwest the United States. We've got a 4.5-minute response time, 90%. That's just not done. And the fact that we've done it with the funding we have, beginning to address this issue of being, quote, upside down on our fire trucks because we think they're going to last longer than we know they're going to last. We're taking that artificiality out in this budget, and we're moving forward with it. I know my brief notes weren't real brief. There were 15 pages of them, but we have all of that. If we need $8.5 million in general fund capital, that's all local capital. That's generated from managing these existing budgets and getting the benefits of the sales tax as we move forwards. I think it's a good budget, Mayor, and I appreciate you saying that you can't see stuff in there that we could pull out. If we can find it, we take it and use the money in a better place.
But I also think that goes to answer the really important question that Alan asked, because we get asked by our constituents, and that is, okay, you've been up in sales tax, where is it, where'd you spend it? Well, we've got to be able to answer that succinctly. It's all good.
We did a lot with this current budget.
We have.
You did a ton with this current budget. Any more questions on the budget?
No.
Well, the mayor mentioned adding streets and the cost related thereof, so let's go to item number 3. No, that's my evil laugh for the day. Resolution opposing the proposed TxDOT.
Lily needs chocolate for this.
Sorry?
Lily needs chocolate for this.
Okay, get you some chocolate and come back.
Yeah, just leave that. I'm listening.
I'm gonna pass out. This is just a sampling of the maps that were pulled from TxDOT's proposal. There's, I believe, 51 of these that are out there. If you look at these maps, and of course Amarillo is the first one. I'll make Wichita Falls the last one. Just ADW. You see the segments, the heavy segments in red. Those are the roads in this, quote, turn back. Now, let me just say this. Turn back is in and of itself a misnomer.
We never had it, did we?
We never had them. This is a turnover. The roads that are indicated on these maps that are gray, that have numbers stuck on them, those are also state roads on the state system. The fact that they remain gray. You've got the Amarillo one.
We've got the Amarillo.
And I'm just, as we talk, y'all flip through these, and, I think when you see the Wichita Falls map, you're going to be shocked. But red means this is what they want to give to us. Gray with a number means they're going to keep it. Okay, the resolution is designed to express the City of Amarillo's opposition to this proposal. And where I've used turn back, I've tried to put it in a parenthetical because that's what it is. Statewide, it's just under 1,900 center lane miles or center line miles of state-owned roads to cities and the counties. Here's some thoughts. I want to thank Mayor Hartfold. He met with our district engineer and myself last week. I've had him on the phone I don't know how many times as we've worked our way through this. And I also want to thank your local legislative delegation, and I'll show you some of that here in just a minute. But, points in opposition to this. First, this program, if all these maps with all these red lines came to pass, that represents $165 million a year savings to TxDOT. Okay, so this is maintenance that's currently funded that they're just going to quit doing and keep the money. Okay, simple math then says that the various localities that are affected by this need to come up with $165 million just to keep things at status quo. That's an unfunded mandate. In my opinion, I can't think of a more crystal clear example of such. Secondly, this is double taxation. The fuel taxes are paying for this today. We don't receive the fuel tax. As a unit of local government, you have two revenue sources that you can apply to roads. First is, of course, your sales tax. Sales tax is only variable based upon your local economy. You can't change the rate. I need more sales tax, so instead of 8.25, let's go to 8.5. You can't do that. So then what rate do you have that you control? The property taxes. At some point, if you were to catch up to this, if this comes to pass, you will put this on the back of your property tax. That or you'll pick something in that budget that you no longer wish to do, and we'll take that money towards it. So it's an unfunded mandate, and if you pursue it to its farthest extent, it becomes double taxation.
Well, how would anybody describe it as anything but double taxation? I mean, I don't see any other explanation for it other than that.
Is it specifically expressed in the fuel tax why they collect fuel tax to keep roads up?
Yes. That's its sole purpose for existing.
Now, let me get something clear. Some of the money goes to the state. Some goes to the feds. The feds then feed money back to the states in their highway bills every 7 years.
But Texas is net negative fuel tax.
Correct.
We send more out
It's like 87%
than we get back.
Isn't it like 87%?
Yeah, the feds use the big pool of the fuel taxes, kind of like they do the community development block grant. They take the big pool and then they try to even the field. So take a state that has many, many miles of road, that has a low population, a low density, and not as many miles being driven. Texas has got a lot of miles. We've got a lot of people. We have a lot of cars. So we send more out than what we get back. And we're not the only state that does that.
I wonder what it would be if they didn't have their administrative cut, because I don't think they're doing that for free. I mean, just the whole system is just screwy. So we're sending it off. They're taking their cut, sending a little back, and now we aren't able to use it for our roads. That's really upsetting. They take their cut out, funnel it back to the state. The state takes their cut out to maintain our local roads. Then they give us back the roads and don't give us any of the money, even though they're administrating the whole thing, to take money out of our pockets.
Allow me to go into a little greater detail, a little directional points. I can't find, let's, for just sake of argument, let's say that this proposal is specifically in Amarillo saves $1 million, because it's a round number.
For them, not us.
For them. I don't find that there's a guarantee that $1 million even stays in the Amarillo district. I think there's a presumption, I cannot say a fact, but I think a presumption that statewide this $165 million savings at TxDOT is going to be accumulated, and logic tells me then used in your high growth areas, so the I-35 corridor. Certainly they have needs too, but I don't think that you fix their needs by creating a need somewhere else. A couple of other points. This could conceivably be done unilaterally. TxDOT is indicating now, the Texas Transportation Commission, a willingness to sit and talk and to be cooperative, and I appreciate that. I have a huge concern, and I've asked the question in several different places. If this comes to pass, or some version of this comes to pass, what then tells me it doesn't come to pass again next year, or the year after that, or the year after that?
You mean more and more roads?
Yeah, you open the door, the floodgates will be opened up.
Yeah, so I think another issue, one of the primary goals of the state of Texas, and truly something Texas has been very successful at, as have many of the local cities such as Amarillo, is economic development. Texas is a growing state. Our economy is growing. Everybody has declared that to be a major effort and committed resources to it, and it's working. Well, taking nearly 1,900 miles of roadway, that's important roadway, and creating now an unfunded situation hardly contributes to the continued economic development, especially if you're going to pay for the same piece twice. So I think that's an issue. To sum up, in my opinion, this is a bad policy. I don't thank you. I don't see the benefit at this time of negotiating or arguing over road segments. I think when you open the door, it's like I said, it could be unilateral and it's open-ended. It can just keep happening to you. So your resolution is designed not to protest any one particular red line, on this map. Your resolution is designed to say that the City Commissioner of Amarillo says this is bad public policy and we don't want you to do it. So, in summary, it's an unfunded mandate, double taxation, it's bad for economic development. And finally, in those cases to where some small version of this might be appropriate, there's already an existing mechanism to deal with it that has been in place for decades all across the state of Texas and has been successful. And TxDOT needs funding. I do not dispute that. I sure don't begrudge it. They need more funding than they receive. But I just don't see how they fix what they're doing by creating another unfunded mandate from somebody like us.
But this is a Band-Aid on a huge problem. When we went to that transportation seminar last year, you and I did, and they were talking about the number of roads that need to be rebuilt in the state because of the extra usage, and now the economic development of gas and oil, and how those roads are getting worn out because of the weight of the trucks. We know that's a big factor in wear and tear. Now we could see more of that development from Lubbock and up in here. And at the same time, they're cutting back funding. There's no way to run a railroad. I mean, they know that they're so far behind. How is that different than when we faced the fact in our city that we were behind on our roads and we dedicated a penny extra to go beyond and try to catch up on the roads? Do they have any idea what it's going to cost to catch up as they go down the road? It takes so long for them to act, so long for them to get this work done. They're starting a cascading number of events. They're going to put the whole state in jeopardy with economic development. How are you going to... Somebody told me the other day that they may take some of the county roads that are state funded now and turn them back into gravel so that they can release them and let the counties take care of them.
Yep.
That's called a conversion program.
So that somebody who's invested on that road, a paved road, put improvements in, now it's back to a gravel road, so the state doesn't
that
have
was down
to
south around Midland, somewhere down there.
It's mostly
Is that any way to do this, to fix this long-term problem?
Our whole state's being run that way. They keep turning it back to local taxpayers because they don't want to raise taxes out in
Is he
Austin.
appointed
But
by
then
the
they won't
governor?
let us have any say-so.
The director?
Exactly. And if they do that to education, too.
He's appointed by the governor. Of course, executive director. How
Um,
many other agencies have been doing the same thing?
When's that governor going to leave?
Well, but they're there.
Should the commission, should you 3, 4, choose to pass this today, I think the next step, next series of steps would be as follows. Texas Transportation Commission, the board that runs this,
I like the language.
they meet Thursday morning in Austin at 9 a.m. It's a 5-member board. There's a member from El Paso, from Tyler, from Houston, from Lubbock, and from Arlington. The commissioner from Arlington has been quoted in the news as saying, we might need to wait a minute. I've not heard from the other 4. Y'all are welcome to pass that around and see the names. I strongly suggest that Mayor Harpole be in attendance at that meeting. Also at that meeting, the Texas Municipal League, through their president, who I believe is Mayor Monaco, will be there. This stack here is newspaper articles that I found over the last weekend. Numerous cities expressing high levels of concern about this. Dallas, Fort Worth, Victoria, Longview, Permian Bay, I mean, you name it. That list continues to grow and grow and grow. And we expect very significant turnout in these cities to be at that meeting. We understand as of last night that the Transportation Commission is certainly aware this has ignited some interest. They're going to limit comment on the item in total to 1 hour. It is a discussion item. They can't act on it, but I think the mayor would be prepared to deliver his comments in 2 to 3 minutes and sit down, because while we certainly want our message, we want everybody else's message to get out there.
How can we go to other states purporting economic development and do something that would injure our ability to carry that through once companies come here? What's going on?
Oh, by the way, you're going to have a road that's going to be a gravel road.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to dig up the
of the state that they're doing this in. They every way they can think of to push it back on local taxpayers, they're doing it.
And they won't grant you any flexibility
in your local property taxes.
Exactly.
They want to keep the rollback rate the same. They want to put appraisal caps on. They want to put budget caps on.
They want to
So
limit
they
our
want to
ability.
push the unfunded mandates to the local level, but then not give you the ability and flexibility in your revenue.
And take away our ability to watch franchise fees like Suddenlink. And limit our testimony about things that affect our citizens like Atmos Energy. So they're taking all the control and giving us back the responsibility and not giving us anything to help with. What's going on?
It makes them look good.
They want everybody
It
to
doesn't make them look good. We'll be very vocal
We're only
about
going to
this.
take comment for 1 hour during this time.
That is ridiculous. What happened to open government?
Same thing that happened when we tried to testify about Atmos. We've already heard this. We don't need to hear this again.
Representative.
On fuel tax a while ago, it sounded like the discussion immediately went to the federal aspect. I want to make sure you're clear that there are two components to your fuel tax. There's a federal fuel tax. There's also a state fuel tax, which goes no further than Austin. By state law, a fraction of that goes to the general school fund, and a big fraction of it goes to the highway improvement fund. And so, didn't want you just want to make sure clear there, and as you phrase things that the bulk of that fuel tax is the state tax, and it stays right here in the state. It goes right to Austin.
Right.
They give a little education, they give a bunch of it to TxDOT. And then the federal goes pretty well.
But as we've come up with more fuel-efficient cars and that funding has gone down, which is what we're all promoting, there's been nothing to augment.
And that tax rate has not been changed since the 50s.
So we're on the one hand saying drive less, use less fuel, but there's nothing to augment the loss of income.
We have greater needs in our state, growing population, and yet they've taken no step, as Lily has said, to raise that state fuel tax, because that's a state tax, and you know how low the legislature is to raise a state tax to help for a state development. Instead, they push it back down to states. They raise your local court costs to take more money out of your municipal court, which are mandated to send to Austin, and then they push these mandates down to you. And will not raise the fuel tax as a dedicated tax for highway improvements.
I think what the city manager said about not allowing a compromise because it opens the door to catastrophe later is right on target. If you had a map here in front of us of all of our state roads, including Amarillo Boulevard, which is not on here, it could be pretty substantial to us if we let this happen without any protest. They could put 3 times the number of roads back on us they're doing with this.
And the purpose of passing these out, on its face, Amarillo's turn-back roads, relatively limited, but Mary, you make an excellent point. The entirety of Highway 60 where it goes through Amarillo qualifies for this program. So that's Amarillo Boulevard East, West, Business Loop, all the way back to I-40. Several other, Highway 136, there's quite a few others that didn't make the list this time. I showed the Wichita Falls map because just did a very, very preliminary look, and I'm not as familiar with Wichita Falls as Amarillo, obviously, but pretty much 287 and I-44.
Yeah, and you've got a bunch of state highways crossing there. Fort Worth, my God.
I'm glad I'm not.
The scale is
Oh,
so
my
much smaller.
God.
That's so huge.
All the loops.
Then by
and
scale,
everything.
Houston, has got like 5 major segments.
I wonder why. Is that because they have a lot of clout in the state?
A lot of people.
In terms of lane miles, love it. Tremendous lane miles that show up. But that is my point, as to could we try to sit and talk about this? Sure.
As long as you can do it in 3 minutes.
But your door's open once you do this, and we don't have any ways. So long term, you're probably looking at some statutory changes. And we started that visit. You had great support from your local legislative delegation. Representative Price has weighed in. Senator Seliger is weighing in. Representative Smith, you may actually be at that hearing with the mayor.
They're on our side.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think that possibly Judge Hauschel
Finance.
is planning to attend.
The other thing that worries me is the farther the state gets behind in transportation, the more it's going to center on the populated areas when they travel. the less we're ever going to get. If they don't keep their roads up, just like their reservoirs, eventually they're after our water and they're never give us money for roads. The whole state's got to work together on this. We're going to get left out as the outlier on this if we aren't careful.
I like their language, too. I always read and try to get the hidden meaning. No action related to this initiative if we take it this month. Then, second, this initiative is not related in any way to the cost savings requirements placed on the Texas Department of Transportation. Oh, give me a break.
Oh,
I like
that's,
the benefits in the next one.
that's the 100 million.
Think of
That's
the
gonna
good things
happen
about
before.
this. Uh-huh.
They're going to have to convince us that it's not related.
Think of the good things about this. You can fit your own speed limit. You can park on the streets.
Oh, go for it, Mayor.
Thanks.
Give them, you know what.
We'll also make copies of that resolution.
Mayor, there's some scary parallels, I think, between this and school funding. You know what, we've managed school funding so well in our state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, extremely well.
TxDOT says, well, this restores local control on roads. Well,
We don't want it.
think about everything in public funding, the tensions between local control of schools, but with the state funding formula. And that automatically creates haves and have-nots, rich districts and poor districts. How do you allocate that money? We're going to have state money for local control. And here, TxDOT is just echoing, taking a page right out of history, where we're going to have state control, but then we have all this state funding. And at some point, I just see some dangers. If it's not managed correctly, we're going to have the same problem of outliers, cities with less population, under a mandate, having to sue or take action to get our share of the pie, not unlike what the schools have faced.
And we will get to pay for that suit out of our taxpayers'
So
pocket as
happens
well.
when
So
you have a government that sits there.
won't be anybody to
The hours we want to
really
do.
are.
But when you listen to vocabulary, it's going to be local control. Well, we have a state funding source. Well, maybe we can work out some sort of funding issues.
Sounds
Maybe
like
not.
education.
It begins how it just has still distant echoes, but let's hope we stay that way. And it doesn't get louder as this thing moves.
Lily and I are very, very familiar with the community college system too in Texas and how it's being hurt by the state in similar ways. So we, Amarillo College is operating with 57 less people in the last 2 years because of state cuts. You know, it's just difficult to try to educate people.
And you got an increasing
They want, on the one hand, justify for local control, but on the other hand, they don't want to reduce the state income. So now you got the state income to do what with?
We get less and less in the
Put
state.
it in
We
the
have
rainy
more
day
and more.
fund and never use it.
Yeah.
Feed it to the I-35, I-45.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any truth to the rumor that they have underspent what the budget is and retained about $600 million?
I have heard that. I haven't
Who's the
been able.
legislature?
Yeah, that maybe there was some general revenue that's still available that wasn't appropriated. I'd like to find more about that before I go very far with it.
Perry
Okay.
already has it designated, that's why.
Let's keep moving. We'll get through the budget here. Item number 4, resolution approving the 2013-2014 Amarillo Hospital District budget. Budget as reviewed last week.
No question. Anybody question?
No.
Next item, appointments, boards, and commissions. You have both Quail Creek Public Improvement District and the Vineyard Public
And they appoint
Improvement.
their own members.
They suggest their own. These are all reappoints. It's on for your action.
Is it Nielsen?
It is Nielsen, and they are related.
No. Thomas
I
Jr.?
didn't know the Thomases were related.
They call me Captain Obvious for a reason. Next item is the consent agenda. We have a few more items on the consent agenda. It's been kind of slow lately, but we're catching up
Super
here.
standard.
Standard items. First is the annual purchase of parts and accessories for your traffic signals. Little cost escalation, little escalation in the actual quantities that we're buying. As we add road miles, we also add traffic control. Truck washout effluent collection facility.
Very healthy.
Doesn't that sound healthy? Some of the trucks that we wash out at the service center don't have nice things in them. Therefore, we need to handle what comes out of them in a very particular manner, and such as this project.
How did you deal with that before?
There's one out there. It's just dealing
dust in our maze everywhere.
Next item, storm sewer erosion outfall, actually storm sewer outfall erosion control. I have erosion and outfall backwards, I apologize. This is at McCarty Lake. McCarty is south on Georgia. This project will basically put in the giant gabion baskets like what you saw recently going into Lawrence. There's been some accelerated erosion out there we need to get to. Fortunately, you also have a funding source to do such.
This is south of 58th, right?
Yes.
And west of Georgia?
Yes.
Okay.
Is this our drainage
Yes.
network?
And you see your pictures. The first one is where that, the big concrete ramp out there, that traditionally is kind of how you try to stop the erosion. We've had more flow this year than the past few years, and it has torn it up. Solutions to eliminate the ramps and go to those big gabion baskets. And the purpose of the gabion is that water is forced out into those baskets full of rock, and that rock is big. And those rocks then destroy the energy that the water's carrying.
Okay.
They also look really neat.
Waterfall.
D&E. D is Transitional Housing Supportive Services. So this is a contract with the Downtown Women's Center, $41,908. Second is Permanent Housing Supportive Services. This two Texas Panhandle Centers, $99,464. Good programs.
Yeah.
Good partners. Next item is the application for the Texas Traffic Safety Program grant to TxDOT. And this is for our fiscal year 2014 grant. We look at DWI, speed enforcement, safety belt, and child safety seats. This one has gone up, so we're pleased with that. And matches, of course, in your operating budget. Well, they're abandoning highways, so we can do traffic.
Well, I guess you could ask them, are you going to do away with all those other funds too?
The next item, sale of property, sheriff sale for Potter County. This is one single tract. This tract actually sold for a significant amount of money. Yes.
34th and what?
14th and prior.
14th and
Oh,
prior.
14th and prior.
Yeah. Item H is your aviation clear zone easement. We've had a bunch of these lately, and of course that's a good thing that we do. This one being 34th and Lakeside. That's why we've got 34th.
Yeah.
Where is Prior Street?
It's over there in southeast Amarillo.
Okay.
And Sunrise, it runs all the way across.
Questions on your agenda?
Nope.
I think the party where you took me that time is over there, that it's all fenced in.
No.
Okay.
No, that one was out of Washington. Willow Grove. That was Willow Grove Lake.
What's it called?
Willow Grove. McCarty's not behind the fence.
Some places don't say.
Yeah, if y'all are bored for an afternoon and really want to see your city, just climb in the pickup. I'll show you all kinds
Some of those places you take us, you need a respirator.
Whenever he says,
But
come in,
it's-
Ellen, I always go, oh, okay.
It's a good part of your open governance. You really go get to see what we're actually doing. So,
How you got?
how are you, sir?
How are you?
Good to see you. Michelle gave you the good news.
What's it?
They like your budget. Do y'all have any questions?
No, you did a good job.
Your hospital district is doing a great job.
All right. Good people working for you.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, if we could, Mayor, let's move to a closed session.
Okay.
And we'll start on some items in